Speed Vision's extensive coverage of road racing continues tonight, 9 p.m. It's the Grand Am Road Racing Championship round from Mid-Ohio, the glorious Mid-Ohio sports car course. Don't miss it. You can keep up and more road racing as it unfolds today. The Grand Am Road Racing Championship, 9 p.m. tonight from Mid-Ohio. And Guy Hobbs, we understand the Cadillac is back in pit lane. In fact, it looks like it's on its way.
Well, it's like a Chinese fire drill down here for the Cadillac team, because the number 3 DAMS car came out of the pits, and when they were trying to pull it out of the pits, they had to put it back in because Andy Wallace was bringing his Cadillac in, and he drove it straight into the pits. In fact, Andy is getting out of the car right now, and it looks like this one, the same thing, the back end's coming off. So as much and quickly as they get the 3 car back out and on the run, the number 1 comes in, and we'll try and catch up again with Andy. But again, they're being very cautious as far as letting anybody in the garages, especially as they immediately go into the problem. So we'll try and update that one for you shortly. Any idea as to what was wrong with the number 3 car? No, because I was basically thrown out of the garage area, and they fiddled with the back, and then they went into alongside the driver's seat and fiddled around in there, and then they suddenly seemed to make the decision to put the back end on. So I don't know if they had some kind of electrical problem down there. And then on the Andy Wallace one, both the front end is off and the back end is off. They're ripping tape off all over the place and working on both ends. All right, Guy, and as we look at the number 1 Cadillac, we had a shot of the number 52 Viper right there. That's the car that's second in GTS, and it looks to be in some fairly serious straits as the crew is pushing it, and looks like they're wheeling it into the garage, so our GTS battle could take a bit of a twist here.
And this is exactly what we were talking about, Calvin. Look what's happened in the 5 minutes that we've been sitting up in the booth right now. There's so much racing to go. If these guys sit in there for 10 laps, I bet you that Cadillac's not going to be trouble-free from here on. So much can happen at this stage.
That's right, Danny. I think with the Vipers, you would think that by now they would be bulletproof. They've won here the last 2 years. They've had enormous success over the past 3 or 4 years with this type of car. Yeah, when you get a new car out there, you get a new competitor, and you push that little bit harder, you're really going into unknown territory, and then the things can start to break. And we're starting to see that few chinks in the armor, you know, in the Viper team, but they've got strength in numbers. So as one hits problems, they have another one to take over.
All right, and Guy, we understand you found Andy Wallace. I found Andy Wallace quickly out of the car. Andy, you almost hit the DAMS number 3. He had the same problem coming out of the garage area. You pulled straight in. What's the problem?
I didn't know I nearly hit him. Well, I've got a slipping clutch now.
Slipping clutch, the same as earlier with Eric van der Poel?
Yeah, just a few laps earlier. We've got no power steering either, but we got a slipping clutch. So we don't give up at Cadillac. We're going to keep going, and these poor guys here,
they're beat.
Are gonna fix it.
Well, you got quite a long time to go. Yeah, you'll get that car back out there and running and try and finish as high as you can.
We will finish this race, no matter what.
All right, Andy Wallace, good luck to you.
That lack of power steering explains his frantic gesturing when he stood up in the cockpit. He was going like, me? You don't want me still in the car? No, you don't want me in the car right now, right?
Well, I think he was asking, because he had disconnected probably the radio, right. Do you want me in or out? Because if we're going to be a long change, where they are in the system, do they need to go ahead and make a driver change? Because if he stops and goes out for another stint, and then they have to do the driver change, it's kind of a waste of time.
You must have got more sleep than I did, because I was kidding.
You told me you were always serious. You told me you never joked. That's why I took the screen down up here, so you'd know where you were.
Boy, we're going to live that one right to the end, aren't we?
That power steering issue, though, Greg, I mean, the real problem with that is when you get in the Porsche curves, you're in there for so long, the car's really loaded up. And I was talking to Johnny O'Connell about it with the Panoz. They didn't have the power steering this year. And he said it's not too bad until you get in those Porsche curves. And then if you hit a little bump or you touch a curve or whatever, you get that kickback through the steering. And they actually bandage their wrists up to really try and prevent any injury through there.
And by the way, we had an email question earlier about whether the crews move over and help the other crew. Well, there you have it. The number 51 mechanic for that car is right up to his elbows with the crew for the number 52. And we're going to do a little check here and find out exactly what's up with the number 52 Viper. We will be back here at Le Mans. Up front, it's an Audi Triumvirate. Back in the garages there at Le Mans, the number 52 Viper, that is Tommy Archer behind the wheel, continues to get rather feverishly worked on. Of course, they had a lap clear basically of They were actually 3 laps clear of the 3rd place Corvette in class, and that's starting to evaporate here in a big hurry. Guy, any further information as to what's going on?
Well, I'm not. There's either a language barrier down here, or someone doesn't want to tell me anything. There's a lot of tie wraps involved, I can tell you that much, but I can't really see what they're doing because there's a huge crowd of guys working on the car. I can tell you that Tommy Archer took his helmet off and then put it back on. They put 4 new tires on the car, but now Tommy Archer's taking his helmet back off again, so maybe it's going to be a little bit longer than they thought. Again, I can't get a view. There's 6 or 7 guys working, all leaning over the front of the car. I can see hundreds of tie wraps being used, and again, I think there's some kind of language barrier, because anytime I ask anybody what seems to be the problem, I'm getting waved off quite a bit. So now Tommy's actually, oh, here's an interesting thing. Tommy Archer has switched helmets. He's going for a fresh helmet, I guess. Getting a little sweaty and nasty in that other one. And so he'll put a new helmet on. It's a slightly different design to the other one. And there is an air gun going at work inside the engine area.
You know, Guy, I'm not so sure. It almost looks like they're working on the head right there. See, they've taken the valve cover off. And maybe they're looking to see if a valve's done, or they might. I thought at first a header, but with those towels in there, I think it's just a valve cover. Maybe they're looking down there. Maybe they've dropped a valve or a valve spring.
Well, I remember Hugh Chamberlain was up here, and they had a problem early with that big V10 engine. He said they lost 4 cylinders, and they went for about 6 hours running on what had become a V6. So this does not necessarily mean the car is done, but it could mean it's in a bit of trouble, Calvin.
Right, I believe so, Greg. Tommy Archer, I believe he changed his helmet probably because sun is up now. He's probably got a different shield on the helmet, just protect from the glare. I doubt if there's any major drama going on there, but as you can see there, Danny, they got that power wrench on there. They're trying to just change one of the valve springs, possibly. They may have broken a valve spring. They're going to try and correct that problem.
They've got everybody helping here.
You know, we also saw when we went to break the 3 cars back in the pits. We didn't, remember we said we didn't think that problem was over, and they're working at the front of the engine, you can see right there.
Well, Dorsey Schrader's there. Let's go down. Dorsey?
Yeah, guys, they're working in a very hard place to get to, underneath the roll bar hoop. And in there is a swirl tank for the engine. You see the guy right there with the tube? That's silicone RTV. He can't get to what he wants to try to tighten the hose, so he's going to try to goober it all up with the RTV. Obviously a water leak of some sort up inside there, and see how hard it is to get to some of these places in the race car. Danny, an observation I made this morning, which is kind of interesting, there's a different smell to a tired race car. When they start them up, there's more oil burning. You can smell a lot more clutch, and you can smell a lot more brakes. These cars smell totally different than they did when they were fresh.
Well, that's true, but don't forget the mechanics used to always say there's a different smell to a tired driver as well. So, you know, so.
Good point.
Those mechanics are probably smelling a little bit themselves.
Yeah.
I think they've been working hard for
I think everybody's smelling right now, and it's been a long, hard time, and of course it's been hot except for the coolness of the evening.
I like the 18th hour technical lingo we're throwing around here, goober it all up, as opposed to a nice fine application. Let's go quick back over to the 52, and Guy Hobbs, any further development?
No, just the work continuing to go on here. And actually, Tommy Archer got to roll it. We're talking about goobering it all up. Tommy Archer's got to roll the duct tape on the inside of the car, and he's just been goobering up the interior. I guess some problems with the dash for him. Now we're getting some kind of electrical lead come in. And that's also sort of timing light gun go in there too. So now we've got I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 9 guys, all from each team, 51, 52, and 53, all helping each other out here. And Calvin, I think you may well be right about the helmet change, although Tommy is also wearing his sunglasses. And we'll go back up to you right now.
All right, well, we've just seen a great example, really, of what Le Mans is all about. As you get down into the gut check time, the last quarter of it, it's sometimes just making the cars last so that you can see the checker as well. We'll be back. Just tuned in, it's a bright day right here now in Le Mans. Of course, a little while ago, it's much like it is back home where you're watching from, dark. But at Le Mans, it is very special at the night. Some of the images that you may have missed are these, the colors. But what the lights do to the cameras is just phenomenal. And of course, Christian Abt focusing not only on his drive here, but on what's going on in the DTM. Thomas Fischer in the BMW having problems. That's Stefan Johansson. Boy, that was a comprehensive explosion, as they say, of a Judd motor.
And the amazing part is that Stefan's part owner of that team, that he didn't stop and somebody didn't radio him and say, hey, pull that puppy over, you're about to hand grenade it. And it was already blowing pretty good.
Well, when you're the boss, you know, you make the decisions. And
yeah, but you got to write the check on Monday to get that.
I didn't say he's not ruining his decision, but he could make it. There's a look at Frank Biela in the lead number 8 Audi that right now is leading, but is not even a full lap ahead of the team car. Let's go quickly down to Guy Hobbs, who's with Tommy Archer.
Yeah, it looks like they're getting the problem solved pretty quick here. Tell me what's happened.
I believe we broke a rocker arm in the engine. We don't have any problem with those usually at all, but today is a bad day.
Looks like they're getting the head back on. Having troubles with the radio too?
Yeah, we're having, all of a sudden we got a microphone problem in the helmet.
All right, I'll get out of the way and let these guys get back to work. They're finishing up the work. Tommy Archer there, and that is the explanation for the helmet change, because every time he turns his head, it unplugs his radio. So now he's got a new radio extension on his helmet.
We've got to look at the 53 in the pit lane. That looks like a routine stop, and it's Beltois that has gone behind the wheel. And that car is not even a lap behind the number 64 Corvette, which is now but a lap behind the 52 car. So this battle is snugging up big time, Calvin.
It really is, and we talked about strengthening numbers with this Viper squad, but now you have a Corvette, which shortly, if they don't get the number 52 car out of the garage, will be up into second place in classes, still about 3 laps down or so. But if the 51 car then has any problems, we can see a change in mark for the lead.
Right now, that 51, Danny, has about a 4-lap lead, but we've seen that can evaporate in a heartbeat.
And we still haven't gotten a report what's happened with that DAMS Cadillac, so we'll keep you posted on that. One thing I will point out, in the lead Audi, where they're only less than 2 minutes behind, I will point out that the actual number 8 Audi has stretched it out a little bit on the number 9 Audi, which has typically been the quicker one, by about 5 or 6 seconds in the last couple of laps.
They've been running some very quick times, although the last lap, again, this could be part traffic and the like. Calvin, what were you just noticing?
Well, I saw some damage there on the right rear side of the wing on that number 64 machine. Hopefully we'll take another look at that. If you look at the end play, it looks like it's tweaked out. And I'm not sure how he would do that without running off the road, unless maybe one of the bolts came out and that's just the aerodynamics is kind of stretched out there on the side. But they're pushing hard. If they can get past the start-finish line here, they'll actually be on the same lap as the 52 car, and we could see a change for position here very shortly.
One of the comments that was made earlier when we saw these guys in there working on the Viper and on the DAMS car, and they're sticking gummy in, and where they got duct tape going on. At this stage of the game, they're trying to get this thing to the finish. They're not worried about how pretty it looks. They're just trying to get everything done. And on this particular pit stop with a Corvette, now that rear wing looks very unconventional on the left rear of your screen. See back on the left corner? I don't know if the aerodynamics would have just pulled away, but they'll probably come in and check that. They might even take it off. If it's not bothering the handling and it's not a danger, they may just leave it so they don't lose any more ground.
The concern, Danny, maybe if it creates a vibration, do you know what I mean? I would say that he kind of got off the road and not damaged anything else, so maybe they just lost the screw and it just pulled that side plate off. But the main concern would be if there's a vibration. They may have a chance to fix that, at least try and get it back in line. I think it's Kelly Collins jumping out there and Frank Frion getting into that car. They got a great driver lineup. Andy Pilgrim essentially leads that team, and of course Frank has a lot of experience here at Le Mans.
They have not even, at least at this point, well, they can't either, can they? While they're refueling, they can only do the driver change. We'll watch right where that the refueler's left elbow is where the damage is, and it's just bent back. As a matter of fact, he torqued it even further back.
Maybe that's how it got bent.
Well, now maybe they'll bend it back, but nobody seems to be looking at it, rushing around at the moment. If somebody's going to rush forward, they might lean on it right here. He's going to try to pull it back into place, bend it in there, and then what he'll do is he's got some clips there, so he'll either cut the front end of it off and not worry about it, or they'll try to maybe stick a rivet in there, but he looks like he's just going to fold it back in and say, hey, drive this thing. We don't have time to deal with it. We're tired.
The old boy who was putting the fuel in there didn't look like he missed too many meals. He may have bent that on the last stop, I think.
Of course, the main thing that does is to keep the air from spilling off the wing, help channel it just a little bit. But your point about a vibration and the like, important, but obviously none reported. And Frank Frion is just sending it back out on track to keep the chase alive, and he is now not that far, once again, behind the number 52, which the problems continue. The car is parked, so the battle of American muscle and GTS will continue. Up front, it's German efficiency. 1, 2, 3. Frank Biela continues lapping here at Le Mans. That is the famed corner, Indianapolis. There's the short chute down into Arnage, the slowest turn on the track, and then the hard, brutal acceleration for about a mile, and then sweeping into the Porsche curves at about 180 miles an hour. This is a grand track. But let's go down to the pits. Dorsey Schrader is with Kelly Collins.
Well, Kelly Collins, a pretty long night. How's it going for you?
Actually, Doris, it's going pretty good. You know, we're nursing a few little things, nothing major. We've been using very tall gears the whole race. We've never been using first gear other than in Arnage. We're short shifting, and we've been setting our own pace and actually learning how to carry the car quite well around the track and still have respective times.
Well, we saw that the right wing plate, the right end plate on the right side of the wing was dented. Was that contact out there?
Coming down into Indianapolis at top speed, the two Audis just passed me, and right as they passed me, one of the white Vipers lost control and went scattering everywhere and threw stuff everywhere, and there was boulders the size of this mic right here flying through the air. I was ducking. It cracked the windshield, and it must have got a end plate.
Well, you appear to be catching the Viper. That's good news for you.
Say it again?
You appear to be catching up a Viper.
We could be. We're just still setting our own pace. There's still too many hours to go. It's like when you think about Daytona, you think 1 o'clock we're on the home stretch, but hell, we got the whole afternoon to still go through.
Good luck, man. Back to you guys upstairs.
Well, you know what? We've talked about mechanical problems. We've talked about this and that, but you can always be involved with another car's incident as well. And right now, as the number 52 Viper takes back to the track, Tommy Archer behind the wheel, it is now third in class, and we have the 51 Viper leading GTS. And only 4 laps back now, the number 64 Corvette is second in class and a lap clear of the number 52 car. So this battle in GTS is afoot.
Yeah, and that was a timely change for those guys. To some extent, though, I don't know when he says we got plenty of racing left to go. That's true if you're on the same lap or you're maybe 1 or 2 behind. But you start getting 10 laps behind, there's not that much time left. You need, if you've got that much, you can't catch them in speed. These guys are too close to do it in speed. At that time, it has to come from some kind of an incident, some kind of a failure, too long of a pit stop, something going wrong for you to catch that.
You know, and I thought it was very revealing when he was talking about their mission as drivers has been to carry the car, get a lot of speed out of the car without using the car up. I mean, that's, you know, in many ways standard endurance, but he said they have been working hard at it to get that car to have respectable times and not chew up the car.
Well, one of the things he did say, Calvin, I mean, you can reflect on this, was he's running all tall gears, which meant they don't want to rev that engine.
Right, they don't want to stress the engine out. Sometimes when you do short shift, as they say, don't wind out in each gear and use a taller gear through some of the corners. You can stretch your fuel mileage as well here, and you know as well, Danny, that if you can get 1 extra lap here at Le Mans, it's very beneficial. And as you said, you're not going to do it on pace alone. You're doing about 15 laps an hour. Even if you're 2 seconds a lap quicker, you're only going to pick up 1 minute. So over 3 hours, you're going to pick up 1 lap. Do you know what I mean? So you really need that 51 car to hit some problems, as the 52 car did, for that 64 car to really get to the front.
And as the 53 car did as well earlier on.
Right.
So there's still a whole lot of racing going on right here, and there's still a whole lot that these guys have to accomplish before any checkered flag comes out at 4 o'clock.
That's a good look right there at the GTS leader, the number 51 Viper, Olivier Boretta, behind the wheel, sort of the ace in that team. And he is doing another superb job, obviously, as he continues to lead here in GTS. Now, as we head to break, we're going to show you our Corvette leaderboard, give you a good rundown of where everybody sits here at Le Mans. And, of course, for the Corvette team, and for everybody interested in it, they're going to be mighty happy seeing that car not only 9th overall, but second in class. And they have done just a sterling job working through some small problems. but they have been able to keep the chase alive, and that, of course, all important here at Le Mans. And as Kelly Collins said, there's lots of racing to go, and we have seen here in this last hour a lot can develop in a hurry. So we're going to take a quick break. We will come back and continue Speed Vision's unprecedented live coverage of the entirety of Le Mans.
It's what I spend my year thinking about. You know, I've run Indianapolis, and I think this place is every bit as special. And, you know, there aren't many drivers that get the opportunity to win here. This year, I think with the Panoz, we have an opportunity. So it is a special event, and so one you really want to make sure you run hard at.
It's unreal. There's really no way to describe the magnitude of the race, but just every day the intensity continues to build. And it's not just coming to Le Mans for the first time for me, but it's coming with General Motors racing and Corvette racing. It really, you know, it's interesting. After being a racing driver now for 21 years, it's really an honor for me to be here with this team, and it's you know, it's a personal success for me, and like I say, it's very, very exciting.
I think it's fantastic. You know, this is a world-renowned race. It's the icon of road racing, not only in Europe, but I think also for all the motorheads back in the U.S. And for our class, the GTO class, which is, or GT class, which is really production-based, to have two American makes be wiping off everybody else in the field, I think that's a real testament to sports cars in America.
Well, I just think it's great to have the Americans over here. Of course, I lived over here for years. They can't understand until you come here to this event. Look at what they're all saying. Chris Neifel, it's an honor. This is a special race. The hard part for Americans is that the Europeans on the whole do not rate the Americans, because they need to come over here on a regular basis. They need to compete with them all the time on their territory over here. We've got some great drivers in America, and they're showing their stuff right now.
Absolutely. I think it was great to see David Donahue win his class here a couple of years ago, teamed with Justin Bell. You know, two second-generation drivers. That's pretty fun to watch that in 1998.
On board here with Emmanuel Collard and the number 3 DAMS Cadillac, which is back out. Apparently the Goober fix worked. And one of the interesting things with this onboard, when he starts going in a straight line here, right about where the glove and the driver's suit meet, you'll see it's a carbon fiber line. And basically now in these cars, and certainly the Audi utilizes it as well, even though it's a side-by-side two-seater, the driver sits in very much a Formula One-like cockpit survival cell. They've stepped up that part of it. One, it helps with safety. Two, it can't hurt stiffness.
Oh, absolutely. I think it really gives the tub a lot more torsional rigidity, and that's what a race car is all about. You need something that's really stiff, allow the suspension to do the work, not have that tub and monocoque flexing around.
And the other factor is a huge safety factor. Of course, with the G-loads that these cars are pulling now, you need that lateral support. They have to have some place that the driver can put his shoulders in there, firmly hold him in the car. If you just had it open across, it'd be like driving on a bench front seat in the car, and you can't get enough lateral support.
That was the first of the chicanes here on the Mulsanne, and now the long blast up to the mirror chicane that will bend off to the left. And while we are on board right now with Emmanuel Collard in the DAMS machine, let's go down to Dorsey with the principal of the team.
Jean-Paul Driot, you're the owner of DAMS and all. You have two cars here, one on the track. It's been a tough day.
Yeah, it has been very tough, especially at the beginning of the race, because my car number 4 caught fire, I think, in the straight because perhaps of a mechanical failure. And I think it's totally destroyed. But since then, with the other one, number 3, we have been running quite easily and quite well up to about half an hour ago, where we encountered an electrical problem, but apparently now it's fixed by coming back twice to the pit, and now it's on the track, and the driver seems to be happy with it.
Well, we see Don Panoz has come over to have a word with you. What was that about?
Yeah, you know, I'm a great friend of Don. We are always very close together, even if I don't have his cars running for us now. But perhaps we are even more friends than we were, because we have no racing cars between us.
Okay, thank you.
Well, business, obviously it's interesting, and Don Panoz is just plain a fan of racing, and whether it's his cars or another car, he appreciates it, and he loves it. That looks to me like Tom Christensen, who is one mighty fast driver, and obviously he's trying to figure out how we can make the next headline in the on-site Audi paper.
Well, believe me, at this stage, with the dominance that Audi has had here, even though they've had some problems, you start getting your butterflies really going now, because you can see the result out there. You can feel it. You can see that trophy sitting up on that stand down there, and you know what it means. And the longer it goes, the more pressure is going to build on Audi.
Good shot there on board the French television, utilizing the magnifier, and you can see some of the components. You saw his thumb on a button. Could very well have been the radio that he was working for just a minute there.
Well, of course, most of the time these guys are running a radio. They don't have any boost thing that they can do up or down. He's probably radioing back to the pit. See him go across there. I can't tell what all the buttons are they've changed, but it sounds like the radio communication back and forth. He's certainly not coming into the pit, so he wouldn't be doing anything there.
Now here he comes on the front through the forward chicane there onto the front straightaway. You see the kickback there. He's off the throttle a lot there in the corners, maybe using slightly higher gear. And good torque from that North Star engine there coming off the turns.
Yeah, and of course you know this track as well as anybody. That little section right there, it doesn't do you any good to throw the car through there, because there's no speed to be gained in there. You can just make a mistake. What you want to do is clean through that left-hander, real clean through the right-hander, and up that straightaway as fast as you can.
And underneath the legendary Dunlop Bridge, the plummet, you have no idea how steep this drop is, folks, down into the S's. And now facing him is Terre Rouge and the blast down Mulsanne and the two chicanes. So Emmanuel Collard at work in the office of the DAMS Cadillac. We're going to take a break, and we will be right back to Le Mans. Welcome back to Le Mans. We are now about 6 hours left in our coverage. Of course, the race just a little bit less than 6 hours remaining, but we'll be on for a half hour past the conclusion of the event to wrap things up. Good look at the Team Dragon, the Japanese Panoz, that has been very effective here, up into 6th place overall. And again, the two Kadayama brothers, but Toshio Suzuki, really the star of last year's race, having a nice run there. And we are going to have one of the factory Panoz cars coming in shortly, and it'll be the number 12 entry, we are told. And Kato will be getting on board that machine, so lots of activity here in the various Panoz teams.
And he's only a lap down
on
the number 23 Panoz car that we just saw on our screen.
They've finished 7th here the past couple of years. They're now running 6th and 7th, so they're certainly looking forward to an improvement here. And here we are, we're on board with Collard again in the DAMS Cadillac. As you can see, he's coming down into that final chicane area again before the front straightaway. Seems to be in a very high gear through that section. Listen to the torque coming off the turn. You really try and have an engine that's got good drivability. You don't want the power to come in suddenly on an endurance event like this. And the engine tuners really work hard at that. Good, smooth delivery is what you want in a long-distance race.
Let's go down to pit lane. Dorsey, I understand, is with Don Panoz.
Well, Don Panoz, we saw you come down here and have a word with Jean-Paul Drio. What were we saying?
Well, you know, Jean-Paul's a special friend. He's raced our cars in the past. I think he's doing a tremendous job for Cadillac. He is in front of us, you know. I really came down to ask him what his secret was, and he won't tell me. No, he's just, I came down to congratulate him on a job I think he's doing supremely well, first year out. And it's spirits of guys like John Paul that make Le Mans, you know. They're good battlers, they're good team managers, owners, good drivers. And these guys ran my car, too, before, so I know them well, and I just really came down to tell John Paul how good of a job I thought he was doing.
Well, now, you've got a car still in 7th place, so you're not out of this yet.
Oh, yeah, but that's another battle. And, you know, we'll be friends during that, and we'll be friends after that, no matter what happens if that battle occurs. Like I said a little while ago, there's going to be some more dramas in this race. I just hope that I have the opportunity to be in those dramas. That's what we're here for.
Well, it looks like all the rough spots have been polished out of yours. Is it running all right now?
I'm sorry, Dorsey, I didn't hear you.
Is the car running smoothly now?
Yeah. The cars seem to be doing well. We just had a broken crankcase, and then later on that led to a broken oil filter, and then a spin that caused the gearbox to go out, a couple of gears to be lost, and it's just Le Mans, you know. What can I say?
Well, how you doing on the stop and smoking? I bet Le Mans doesn't help that a bit.
Well, I have to be honest. I strayed across the line a couple of times this week, but not to any extent or any extent to be back, just to make sure that I didn't lose my cool at the wrong time. Good luck. Okay, thank you.
Hey, Dorsey, Ford Don Panoz, one of his customer cars, one of the Team Dragon entries from Japan, is enduring a very long penalty in the penalty box. Meanwhile, the number 12 is in, Guy.
We're in the 12 pit. We're in the 12 pit where they're making a driver change. Pierre-Henri Raffanel will get out, and Hiroki Kato with his seat adjustment will get in. Of course, quite a bit of size difference on here. They plugged the radio in, the usual fueling. Came in pretty hot, actually. Ran over the marks just a little bit, and they're getting ready to put on 4 new Michelins on there. Just to go back to Don Panoz and giving up his smoking, surely he could use the patch. He must get a good deal on them.
Yeah, you would think. Good point.
A little bit of smoke coming out the front end, nothing unusual though, and a little bit of damage to the right front wing, and adding some extra duct tape on that to try and keep that in place. They're running on just one headlight. They have been for the last few hours. Obviously at this point, lights not a big deal. And in the 11 car, the sister car, Mario Andretti is behind the wheel of that one, but the 12 is now back out and underway.
You know, that's an interesting point. We had a great question from one of our emails, and it was basically wondering how much additional downforce do the trim tabs, the little winglets on the front, particularly of the Panoz cars, add. And one of those, as Guy just mentioned, apparently damaged. Just how effective are those?
Well, I'm sure they create more downforce, but I've got a feeling it's not the downforce that's the problem, it's the drag. And when the car is put into a wind tunnel and the bodywork and the wing and everything is formulated, they come up with a package that's efficient there. Then if somebody, a governing body, goes and sticks a piece on and says it's going to go right here, it really louses up the aerodynamics. These things are very, very well thought out.
They normally use those just to really trim the car, and I think there's so much downforce created from the underneath of the cars these days as opposed to the old days when you're really looking at those trim tabs to keep the car stable. I know Alan DeCadney was telling a story of one car that here a few years ago. Trim tab was lost, the guy came in and said, I'll just do another lap, and the thing literally took off on him down the straightaway. So back in the old days, very critical. I think today it'll probably just affect the turn into the car a little bit into the corners.
You just had a good look at the top 5 in the GTS category, and again, now the 51 Viper leads, but that 64 Vet now in the second spot. So that battle well and truly on. And here is the car that held second for so long and has now dropped to 4th, the number 52 Viper. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Le Mans, and we're going to go right down to the pits where I understand Guy Hobbs has found Pierre-Henri Raffanel.
Yes, he just stepped out of the 12 car, and yeah, there's a little bit of damage to the right front of your car, which is being duct taped up. And I also saw you making some serious gestures to Kato about maybe handling problems.
I mean, we have since we changed the gearbox in the night, I mean, the mounting from the wing is different, so we have more understeer now, and we don't want to stop for that, so the car is like difficult because we don't have, I mean, power steering, so we have to overturn, so it's a lot of effort and quite difficult car to drive. But I mean, when it's not so much traffic, I mean, you could still do good lap time, so the car is running fine except its understeer.
Judging by the gestures you were giving, it's pretty major understeer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a major understeer. I mean, it's just like big everywhere in the quick corner, so it's very difficult when you follow a car. Another car, you cannot do anything. You must stay like a long way. Then you're losing time in the traffic, which is not very good here.
How's the airflow down the Mulsanne Straight? I know previously over the weekend you guys are having to back off just a little bit. Still having that problem?
No, not today. We're getting used.
All right, good. We'll let you have a rest and a little drink. That's Pierre-Henri Raffanel, who's just stepped out of the number 12.
And again, the Panoz team continues to push and not give up. They want to make the finish as well. Now, a little earlier, we saw the number 22 Team Dragon up car, and that's the one we're looking at a replay here. A very long stop and go. And Calvin, you've been working the pits, and you say that generally that's a problem with excessive speed in the pits?
typically is a 60 clicks through here, about 37 miles an hour. And as Danny mentioned, you have a pit lane speed limiter. You press a button when you come into the pits, that brings the car speed down. So it's really just a driver error if he didn't hit the button soon enough or maybe released it too early, leaving the pit lane. And there's a massive penalty here. I understand it's about 60-second stop and go, and you have to crawl through the pits once again, because so it can essentially cost you about half a lap, Danny, if you make that mistake.
Yeah, it's a big penalty, and I think that they're absolutely right. We've all been down the pits. We all want to tear through there to make up time, but it's very dangerous. It's done for safety. It's there for everybody, and there's no excuse to be tearing through the pits anymore. It just doesn't do anything except endanger the pit crew and the journalists down there.
Absolutely. It's a 24-hour event after all, and this is not a sprint race, so bringing in and out the pits safely is the important factor, and not creating any havoc down there.
Got a good look there at Frank Biela as he continues to just lap serenely at the front here in the number 8 Audi. By the way, we've got some emails.
Ooh, whoa, that was close. Did you see that?
Very close.
He had to go over there. There's a rough section in there. It's very tricky when the road trends into the other road that dives off there to the right. It's rough. He had to put a wheel up on the curb. That car did not see him and did not give him enough room. Okay, he's coming down the inside.
But the
car's, well, it's very rough there. It's very wavy. The car tries to take his line. Whoa, he doesn't see that. Now, you know what? That's very close to an incident that happened last year to Terry Bootson in the Toyota, where the car saw him coming. He went down and passed him on the fast part of the straight. The GT3 car moved over, clipped his rear, turned him right into the barrier, 200 miles an hour.
That was a serious shunt as well. The number 6, this is the Mopar engined machine, the sprint car machine that's 23rd overall right now, coming down into the pits, also run by the Oreca team. We were talking about some of the emails as we watched the stop. One was from Dennis, and he said he was relating a story to his wife about the driver that drove 23 of the 24 hours, but he can't remember who or what year it was.
Canetti.
Well, it was in 1949. You're absolutely right. Canetti, you remember who he drove with?
Luigi Canetti, and he drove with an Englishman, Sir. Don't know. That's really more. I mean, 49. I wasn't even around.
Lord Selsden.
Lord Selsden. Alan de Cadenet said that Lord Selsden had a little bit too much of the local blanc and couldn't drive, so Luigi had to do all the driving.
And Luigi did a great job as well, because he ended up winning it. Not a bad way to spend 23 hours here at Le Mans. We will be right back for more from Le Mans. Our GT leader is in the pits here at Le Mans. That's the number 83, Dick Barber Mobile 1 Porsche. And Bob Wallach has elected, I guess, to stay in the car. A very quick stop, just a quick clean of the windshield, and brilliant Bob. Oh, we find out now it is Lucas Luhr was in the car and is elected to stay in. And so he is back out again. The car, very respectable now, 15th overall, leading in GT3. And look at this! Whoa. Oh, that was the Pescarolo owned and run Courage, and as they were trying to get around the 63 car, the leader involved as well. Another very close call here.
This is what happens late in the race. Everybody's getting a little tired. They're fighting. They can't see, believe it or not, a lot of times you can't see out of your mirrors very well because the dirt's got actually on the mirror, and he's fighting for position too. He doesn't want to give up and not get past that Corvette. I don't think he saw him there. Would you say, Calvin? That was just...
Like you say, Dan, I think that's a great point. You are getting late in the race. The drivers are a little tired, and he was really just focusing on the car in front of him. The Audi probably came up on him in a hurry, wasn't aware of the car, and that's where suddenly the whole face of this race can change in a heartbeat. You know, one of the lead cars, bingo, you get into someone, do some damage, and this thing can be turned around in a hurry.
We just saw Stefano Telli, who was in the number 9 Audi, came in, quick stop, and that was it. And whoa, Biela just diving into the pits as he was trailing that Courage and decided it was time to pit. A pretty aggressive move.
It was, but I'm not so sure he wasn't doing a little, hey, I'm over here. I just want you to know I'm there. And they probably called him in. Now that the number 9 car, his sister car, has just left the pit. So he's going to be about a couple of minutes difference there, but the other one's out early.
There's another look at that close call, but as the leader, Frank Biela, heads into the pits, I believe Guy Hobbs is waiting.
making our way up there. The number 8 comes in, looking very, very dirty. They're going to have to polish this thing up pretty soon, although there's a few hours to go. Frank Biela pulls in nicely. The crew does its usual work. It's been very smooth all these hours. They haven't had one problem. It's been absolutely unbelievable how well these guys have done.
So obviously
Biela is staying in the vehicle this time.
Who is the driver that was waiting to get in? Who's that standing right there in the background?
Christensen, I believe.
Christensen, who was sitting up reading the Audi news on the tires a minute ago.
Yeah, they didn't even change the tires. They just put fuel in. Christensen didn't get in, so he'll sit around and wait for his opportunity. I guess they're saving the fast car.
Yeah, but Guy, this is also a tough scenario for a driver, because when you've got your call and you're ready to go and you gotten all prepared, you kind of got yourself a little bit psyched up. You're ready to go. The guy says, "No, I'm okay." Okay, that's a professional thing to do, but now you got to download, if you like, sit back down, wait for another 45 minutes, then get prepared again.
And this man loves to drive, Danny. I mean, when he got the call from Yost a couple of years ago to come in and drive, I mean, he didn't know he was driving until the Sunday, and 1 week later he'd won this race in his first attempt. And he can really get the hammer down. If you get Christensen out there and then put McNish in the Audi, there's no slouches on this team anyway. But if those two boys go out at hammer and tongs, we're going to see a classic this afternoon.
Well, we saw that happen at Sebring
Tom
this
Christensen and Frank Biela didn't get out of the car. Does that disappoint you?
No, I mean, he's doing a good job.
That's a couple of times though he's done that today.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just for safety. We look at the tires. The tires looks perfect. So he does another stint on them, and it's just to be ready.
It's just delayed your schedule a little bit, right?
No, I think it optimized my schedule a little bit.
Oh, all right. Thanks, Tom Christensen. We'll check in on you again.
And as I was going to say, Calvin, if you watched our coverage at Sebring, you saw McNish and Christensen a couple of times, absolutely head-to-head, and it was some of the most fascinating racing. And in that one, Christensen came out on top after some late problems for the McNish car. So you know there's a little revenge factor perhaps at play here.
Yeah, but what it comes down to is these teams are so well run, the cars are good. They know that they've got the stallions right there, and they can't hold them back and say, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. You got to let them run. They're great race car drivers. They got the talent. Let them go out there and go at it. Now, what they don't want you to do is knock each other off in the process. And if it came down to where one of them had closed and they were really doing a pace that was unbelievable toward the end of the race, they might say, hey, guys, back off here and let's save the equipment.
Biela actually qualified the car this weekend, so they obviously have a lot of faith in his speed around this racetrack. May have gone for experience there. There we see the two Panoz running together. I think there's Mario out front of Cato. Mario in the 11 machine, Cato in the 12. The two red Panoz heading out of Vanage down towards the Indianapolis complex there.
The number 8 Audi has actually pulled out since we've been talking the last hour or so. It's actually stretched out about a minute on the number 9 car.
However, the battle is going to continue as they remain on the same lap. So we're going to see, I would think, some good laps thrown in here in short order. We're going to step away. We will be back to cover the battle up front.
We've seen the good and the bad side of Le Mans, because somebody asked me if I really love the race. Yes, I do. When we were here and we were leading, it was a fantastic feeling. When we won, it was even better, and the party afterwards was excellent to see the joy on 100 people from Porsche. That was the thing when you come back and you see all the mechanics and their efforts that they had put in. And then 12 months later with Toyota, we were in with a very, very strong chance of winning a second Le Mans. And we went out of the race in the middle of the night due to an accident with a slower car, which was certainly, it was nothing to do with Thierry Boutsen, who was driving the Toyota at the time. It was just one of these things. And then you see that there's two sides to Le Mans. It's not just all happiness and standing on a podium spraying champagne. It's there's sometimes people on the other side that, you know, take it in a bad way, but we're back again. The draw of being back in the podium is more than the negatives.
Well, for Alan McNish, he has well and truly, I think, experienced the roller coaster of Le Mans. We're not talking the track, we're just talking the emotions. But that win in '98 is going to live with him forever. There's no question.
He had a fantastic job. He did a great job. What a lot of people forget, in '98, he also, with the GT1 Porsche, we won at Daytona the 24-hour in the GT1 category. We were second overall. And, so he had a pretty strong year with those guys. And then when he jumped because of some things that could happen, and he went over to Toyota. I mean, that was such a dominant program that it looked like he could be, you know, a 2-time in a row winner of this thing. And unfortunately, it didn't turn out the way Toyota and Ove Anderson thought.
It's interesting, though, that he's now doing the testing on the Toyota F1 project. They're actually using the GT1 sports car to really test a lot of the components of the new F1 car, and he's in there. They really rate him very highly, his technical ability, and he hasn't given up his dream of being back in Formula One. Remember, he was testing for Benetton a few years ago. It seemed as though he missed the boat a little bit, but now he's back, and there is some opportunity for him.
That certainly might give him the inside track. The number 64 Corvette in, of course, second place now in the GTS division, 4 laps back of the lead, number 51. Guy?
Yeah, the 64 Corvette came in and no one was expecting him. All the guys had to come over from the other side of the wall. Some confrontation going on now. They've quickly got to the gas. Putting some gas in. Frank Freon is in the car, but these guys were not waiting for him. And now we see the team manager saying, don't panic, don't panic. No one expected him. I wonder if he has no radio contact. And that end flap, Calvin, that we talked about earlier that got bent, and then we saw the gas man bend it back again. Well, now it's re-bent again, and we're going to see if that gets bent back again. They shut the motor off.
Sounds like a whole lot of bending going on down there.
that end plate is really hanging off this time.
Yeah, it's probably weak now. It's at speed. You're doing 200 miles an hour. There's not a download on the back of the car, and it's probably just bending at speed, I would imagine.
Well, that was apparently a somewhat routine stop, but hardly efficient. The number 3 DAMS Cadillac is back in, Dorsey.
Here again, and I tell you what, they're not looking at the engine this time. Manuel Collier stays in the car, does not take on tires, fuel only, and he leaves.
Boy, a very quick stop, and you saw from our French world feed, they were taking a look at a blister on the tire.
That wasn't a blister.
What was it?
That was just build up on the tire. When you come in, especially when you slow down, the rubber that's laying out on the track. Don't forget, these tires are really hot. They've been running them hard, so they are just like a sponge or a piece of sticky tape. They just pick up everything.
And the other thing with sports car, Danny, is unlike an Indy car, for example, where you just get the little marbles. That stuff will build up on the inside of the fenders and stuff, and suddenly it'll just drop a big lump on the ground. You pick that up, you suddenly got a big vibration in a hurry.
Exactly. So,
by the way, Danny, this is a good email question for you from Kevin Clary of Colorado Springs, Colorado. He says he noticed the arrows on the road preceding certain corners. Wants to know, is this part of the racetrack or part of the public roads? And if it is a part of the public portion of the racetrack, is that a common practice on European or French roads to have those arrows?
Yes, what it is that is the public road, and what they are is they're arrows to tell you that your passing zone is about to finish, and you have to get in before you get to the solid white line. Over here, you can't be over the solid white line. So those arrows tell you that your zone is about to finish, and if you're not in there,
it's pretty sticky on that. I remember I went down to Monaco to do the Formula 3 race, and I paddocked over by the F3 paddock with, and I took my road car down there. Came out at the end of the day, and the car was gone. So I went over to this Frenchman and said, this policeman, and said, I've lost my car. He said, where'd you park it? I said, right underneath that sign. He said, well, that's the no parking sign. They towed it off. It took me about 6 hours to find the damn thing, but yeah, they certainly have some rules over here.
That is a good question and a good observation. I hope he did know that those arrows were coming against the traffic. That was coming out to the Mulls End, so it is public road going the other way.
Got another quick one for you here, Danny. This is from Rick Hughes, who says that they've been noticing all the work on the brakes going on. He's wondering, what do teams do to keep the brake fluid from boiling, or is that not a problem on such a large track here as Le Mans?
Around here, it's really not a problem unless they've got a problem with something to do with the fluid or something. But under normal circumstances, look, this guy's just tapped the brakes. He's come out here. He's going to run down there. He's going to get up to a speed of 210 miles an hour, probably taking 20-odd seconds to get down there. They've got ducting in there, plenty of time on the brakes. They're so efficient now, too, with the carbon brakes. When the heat comes in, we've showed a lot of shots during the show of the glowing disc. What people don't realize is the minute you take, or milliseconds, you take your foot off of that pedal, the heat just dissipates and goes away.
Right. And the braking zones are so much shorter now, do you know what I mean? They're on the brakes for less time. They also have special fluid that really has a high temperature capability as well.
All right, good information, obviously, and give you a look at the standings here as we are closing in, of course, on the end of this. And by the way, Rick wondered why Dorsey Schrader is reporting instead of driving, because they're still perfecting that Porsche Lola. He'll be back behind the wheel. Don't worry about it.